Dear Saints of Christ Church, in these days of distancing, I thought I would attempt to communicate with you via a brief video. But I would, of course, rather be talking with you face to face. Let me know if you find it helpful. I would like to encourage you with Psalm 107. I want to remind you to give thanks to the Lord, for he is good, for his mercy endures forever. But before I get there, I want to ask two things. First, I want to ask you to pray for the elders and me. Tomorrow morning, we're going to have our mid-year presbytery meeting beginning at 9 a.m. And we're going to be discussing the current situation and how to respond to it. And then I'm going to have in the afternoon a meeting with the Reformed pastors of Spokane, and we're also going to be discussing the same thing. So please keep those meetings in your prayers. Secondly, just a reminder that parish committees start tonight. We have a Wednesday night meeting, a Thursday night meeting, and a Friday night meeting. And we encourage you to join in. We're only going to meet for an hour or less via Zoom. And so don't go crazy at home. Please join in with us. All right, my main purpose here is to commend Psalm 107 for your family worship. And I would recommend that you spend at least 4 nights on Psalm 107. 4 nights will keep the psalm shorter each night, which will be helpful, especially for if you have little ones. But spending 4 nights on it will also allow the psalm to sink in deeper. And that's my prayer, that the psalm would make a deep impact on us. The context of the psalm is that the people of God have returned from captivity, have returned from Babylon to Jerusalem. And that is described in the first 3 verses. Oh, give thanks to the Lord, for he is good, for his mercy endures forever. Let the redeemed of the Lord say so, whom he has redeemed from the hand of the enemy, and gathered out of the lands, from the east and from the west, from the north and from the south. So in this context of returning from Babylon, the next part of the psalm has 4 different pictures of what sort of took place with the exile. The first picture is in verses 4 to 9, and it's a picture of wanderers retrieved. The second picture is in verses 10 through 16, and it's a picture of prisoners released. And the third picture is in verses 17 through 22, and it has the sick restored. And then finally, the fourth picture in verses 23 to 32 has the storm tossed being rescued. At the end of the psalm, verses 33 to 43, those verses contain the punchline, the summary. And it ends with these words: whoever is wise will observe these things, and they will understand the loving kindness of the Lord. And that's our purpose, is to understand the loving kindness of the Lord and how that's displayed in hardship, in his discipline. And so in the end 10 verses from verse 33 to 43, the sovereignty of God is exalted. For he's the one, we're told, that turns rivers into wilderness and the water springs into a dry ground. He's the one who does that, that turns blessing into hardship in certain circumstances. But he is also the one who turns a wilderness into pools of water and dry land into water springs. He's the one who brings his people back home. And my prayer is that we would be wise, that we'd understand what's going on, that we would observe these things, that we would understand the loving kindness of the Lord. And so I commend this psalm to you, and I commend that you read this over 4 nights, read the first 3 verses, and then read one of the pictures. Read verses 4 to 9 one night, and then read the closing 11 verses, and observe how God works in these ways. And then the second night, begin again the first 3 verses, and then read the second picture in verses 10 to 16, and then the closing 11 verses. The third night, Again, first three verses, verses 17 to 22, and then read the last 11 verses. And then on the fourth night, the same thing again, except insert the fourth picture there and verses 23 to 32, and then the final 11 verses. And my prayer is that we would be wise, that we would observe these things, and that we would understand the loving kindness of the Lord. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen.